Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, August 28th, end of the month, baby. Give that last push next week, a big push next week. And we're getting towards the end of the year, too. So keep pushing now. This is the time to really dig in, make sure that you're there ready to achieve your goals or maybe exceed your financial goals by the end of this year and to set up next year for a real big win. I'm actually doing a live webinar with my friend Beth Granger, who's a LinkedIn expert, on September 11th at noon. If you're interested in that, just email me or text me or get in touch with me somehow. I'll send you the link to that. It's a free webinar. As you know, if you've joined us before, I founded the Sales Pro Network because I'm a sales trainer and coach. I work with individuals and organizations internationally to help them increase their sales. And I founded this group, the Sales Pro Network, to elevate the profession of sales, to be a place where salespeople can hang out, network with each other, ask questions, get answers, and earn more money. And if you've been with us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I typically do a live interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. Today, we're going to do something different. I'm going to do a training for you. We've done a few of these in the past, and this one is one of my favorite topics. Been doing these for 3 years. I can't remember if I've done this with you guys before, but I think it's so useful that I have to share it with you. It's called Stream of Consciousness Brainstorming. Before I go to that, if you're watching us live, please say hello in the comments. If you're watching us live on Facebook but have not connected your account to StreamYard, it's just going to say Facebook user, so I won't know who you are. So please include your name. If you have any questions during this presentation, during this training, please do put them in the comments. I won't be able to see them until the training is over, but I'll take a look at them before we end. And finally, if you're watching us on the replay, please put replay in the comments. And with that, I'm going to share my screen. And hang in there. Share screen. Bingo. All right. So stream of consciousness brainstorming is a problem-solving and idea-generating methodology. I came across it a few years ago. I did not invent this. I wish I did. I think it's brilliant. I use it regularly. And you can use this to come up with ideas when you're trying to brainstorm on something. Of course, that's why it's called brainstorming. Stream of consciousness brainstorming means you're thinking about it, or to generate new ideas. So let's get right into it. The first thing I want you to understand is something that a coach of mine taught me several years back. And that's the difference between working in your business and working on your business. So working in your business is what each of us does almost all day long, every day, to try to earn money. We go to work, we do stuff, we're trying to bring in income, service our clients. So for example, if you're a lawyer, some of the activities for working in your business might be meeting with new clients, try to sign them, or meeting with new prospects to try to get them to become clients, or meeting with current clients to talk about their cases, networking with other attorneys and other people to try to develop business, talking to other attorneys about cases that you're both working on, whether as an adversarial process or that you're working on together, reading briefs, going to court. Those are all things that attorneys do on a regular basis to work in their business. In my business, I'm prospecting regularly. I'm posting on LinkedIn. I'm doing these broadcasts for you guys and monitoring the Sales Pro Network on Facebook to see what's going on there. I'm delivering for clients. I produced online videos that people can buy to learn how to sell or to prospect. Those are all things I do to work in my business. But what most of us do not take the time to do is work on our business. And this coach taught me the difference between the two. Working on your business means you're taking the time. You're actually setting aside time on your calendar to do nothing but thinking about, how can I do things better, differently? How can I make more money? How can I be more effective? How can I be more efficient? How can I do things faster or smarter? Actually taking the time to work on your business and thinking about how you can improve it. Maybe you have to pivot to something else. Things aren't working. You've got to change. Most of us do not take the time to do that because we're so busy working in our business every day to bring in income that we don't have the time, or we're unwilling to make the time to make that investment to work on our business. But here's what I found. The woman who was coaching me at the time, excuse me, wanted me to commit to doing this for 5 hours a week. She wanted me at the end of every day to take an hour just to think about all the things I could do to work on my business. I was working with this coach because I was going to change my business to a different model at the time. I actually, through this process, discovered I didn't want to change the model, but that's besides the point. So she taught me that she wanted me to spend an hour every day just thinking about how I can do things differently, better, faster, smarter, things like that. I was unwilling to commit to that, but I did do it for 3 hours a week. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, at the end of the day, I would just sit for an hour. The way I did it was I would sit in my comfy chair, lean back with my hands behind my neck, and just either stare up at the ceiling or close my eyes and think about, what can I do differently? How can I make this happen? What can I do to make myself more effective or efficient? All those things. And what I found was miraculous stuff started to happen. One of the things that happened was I figured out I don't really want to change my business to what I thought I wanted to change it to. And I came up with other ways that I could work in my business more effectively, more efficiently, to make more money, serve more people, and have more fun while doing it. So if you take nothing else away from today, I'd like you to take away the fact that you should be taking some time each and every week to work on your business. It typically pays huge dividends. Now, when would be the right time to do things differently? Because often we think about, when should I do this? When's the right time to get started? And there's a personal development program that I participated in for many years. It was originally called the S training, and then it became the Landmark Forum. And one of the things they used to say was, if you wait to drive into the city, if you wait until all the lights are green, you're going to be waiting a long, long time. So when's the best time to shake things up, or to find a different way to find new prospects, or reach out to a different client base perhaps, or whatever it is? when would be the right time for that? Well, now is the right time, because if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? One of the toughest things to do in any goal achievement process is getting started. I actually co-authored a book called How to Be Your Own Coach, 6 Simple Questions for Achieving Your Goals. And we talk about one of the hardest things is getting started. Most goal setting experts will tell you that once you set a goal, if you don't take some action on it within 72 hours, you probably never will, and you're not going to achieve your goal. Me, and in the book, we taught, my co-author and I, Steve Bookbinder, who's brilliant, and really the book really came out of his brain. We say, do it within 24 hours. In fact, when I work with coaching clients, when you make a commitment to me for your goal, I want you to do something right now. The sooner you get started on anything, the sooner you can start making progress. So now is actually the right time to figure out, how can I do things differently? How can I do things better? How can I be more effective? How can I make more money by serving more people? Now is the time. So in order to figure out any of those things, you need some type of a process. Now, if you look down at the bottom right of your screen, I just included this picture today because of AI. So you can go to ChatGPT or any other of these AIs and type in, what can I do to, and fill in the blank, and it'll give you lots of ideas. And I'm not against AI. I'm a big fan of AI. I'm using it myself. I'm teaching other people to use it. I'm eventually going to put together an AI for sales video. But for now, I suggest it's a great tool. However, I still think there's a bonus and a value in using your brain. AI is going to tell you what other people have thought, because it's just scanning the internet for anything that's related to what you're asking. It's giving you other people's ideas, and that's useful. But I believe that you are a creative individual, and you actually know what you need to do. One of my things is, I believe we're all connected to the same universal intelligence. Call it whatever you like, call it God or Buddha or whatever you want to, but we're all plugged into this universal intelligence. And if we just take the time to access that intelligence, you actually know what to do. You know how to solve your own problems. You know how to generate ideas. And you do that by getting creative through this process called stream of consciousness brainstorming. So it's very simple. I'm a big fan of simple is better if possible. Not everything is simple, but some things can be. So in order to be effective with stream of consciousness brainstorming, the first thing is you've got to have an open mind. You've got to be willing to say, I am creative. And the reason I'm saying that, because you might be going, of course I'm creative, Jeff. What are you talking about? Well, if you had asked me maybe 5 or 6 years ago, Jeff, are you a creative guy? I would have told you, no, I'm not a creative person. I'm a person who, if you tell me what to do, I'm going to get it done, especially if you tell me exactly what to do. I'm very good at following instructions. I'm very good at writing instructions, but I'm not a creative guy. I discovered that actually I am creative, that me saying I'm not creative was just some story I had in my mind, but I actually am creative, and so are you. I believe everyone is creative. So you've got to be willing to accept that you are creative, if just for doing this exercise. After you try this exercise, if you want to say again, you're not creative, that's fine by me. But I believe you are creative. You also need a legal pad or something that you can write on. I do not suggest that you do this exercise on a computer. because writing is more immersive than typing. You get more out of it. You're putting more into it and getting more out of it if you're actually writing. So I suggest you need a legal pad or something to write on, and a pen, a pencil, a crayon, or something like that. And you need to assign yourself a certain amount of time to do this exercise. Now, I don't care whether it's 5 minutes, 2 hours, whatever you want. When I do this, I use 30 minutes. That's not the right amount of time. That's not the good amount of time or the bad amount of time. That's just the amount of time that I use when I do stream of consciousness brainstorming. But you've got to set a time limit for yourself. And there's no right or wrong amount of time. And you've got to have a way to track that time, whether it's with a stopwatch like you're seeing on your screen right now, if you're watching this live, using your phone or anything like that. But you have to have a time limit that you're going to do this for and a way to track it. Then step 2, you want to get to a quiet place physically. So right now I'm standing in my office. There's my landline here because I'm an old guy and I still have a landline. There's my cell phone. I have both of them disconnected right now, which I guess I could do when I'm doing this exercise, but I don't. My computer is also here. I guess I could turn off the volume and not listen to it, but I just don't do that. There's too many distractions here in my office. I usually do this either in my dining room where I don't have a phone, don't have a computer or anything like that, and I have a table I can sit at, or I go to the beach. I live a block from the ocean, so I'll go to the beach, and you may say, well, Jeff, there's noise at the beach. There's other people sometimes, not always. There's the sound of the ocean. That's actually a very meditative sound for me. So I sometimes do this at the ocean. What you don't want to do is be distracted by things like your phone or your computer going ding, making you want to go check your email. So you get to a quiet place physically, and then you want to get to a quiet place mentally. Now, if you don't know how to meditate, if you do know how to meditate, that would be a perfect thing to do. So you get yourself to a quiet place physically, and now meditate for maybe a minute or two. If you don't know how to meditate, I'm going to give you a very quick primer on that. So typically, when people meditate, they meditate on what's called a mantra, which is just a word or a sound that you repeat over and over and over. The one I use is Om Namah Shivaya, which means I honor the self within me. So when I'm meditating, typically my eyes are closed and I'm just saying Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, over and over and over. If you don't want to do something like that, then you can simply do deep breathing. Deep breathing can put you into a meditative state, or at least quiet you enough that this exercise will be more effective. When I say deep breathing, I'm not talking about breathing the way you and I are probably breathing right now. Breathing is part of our autonomic nervous system, which means we're doing it automatically. None of us are sitting there and thinking, okay, let's breathe in for a little bit. Okay, now it's time to breathe out for a little bit. We just do it naturally, kind of like driving. You don't sit in when you see the light turn yellow. Well, if you're like me, you step on the gas and go faster. But if you're like most normal human beings, you do not sit and think, okay, the light turned yellow. Let me reduce the pressure on my right foot and move it slowly over to the left to the brake and then gently apply pressure. We don't think like that. It's just an automatic response. So when I say deep breathing, I mean breathe in deeply and for a slow count of 5, really fully. Fill your lungs completely, which is not how we normally breathe. Hold that for a count of 5. Breathe out fully, and I mean exhale fully. We don't typically exhale everything out on every breath. So do that for a count of 5 and then hold that for a count of 5. So you're talking 20 seconds there. In for 5, hold for 5, out for 5, hold for 5. And if you repeat that 3 times, that's a minute. 6 times, that's 2 minutes. That's enough to put you in the state that I'm talking about right now. So you're in a physical place that's quiet, and now your brain is mentally quiet, so you can focus on whatever you're trying to accomplish. Step 3. Whatever the question is that you want to ask yourself, whatever problem you're trying to solve or idea you're trying to generate, you want to ask yourself that question out loud. Now, when I'm doing sales training at large organizations with a bunch of salespeople and sales managers, the way we use this is by coming up with questions to ask when we're on a sales call, because I believe that the most important part of the sales process is asking questions. It's not your brilliant presentation skills that closes business. It's not your strong closing skills that closes business. It's your ability to ask the right questions, listen actively to the answers, and then give a presentation based on what you just heard, what you learned about what the prospect is doing, what they need, and how you can deliver it to them. But when I do this training for people, I emphasize the importance of asking questions. And there's always somebody who raises their hand and says, okay, Jeff, if questions are the most important part of the sales process, and they are, what questions should I be asking? So we do this exercise, and the question we ask ourselves out loud is, assuming my prospects would give me unlimited time and answer every question with complete honesty, what questions would I ask on a sales call? So I'm saying you've got a prospect, a live prospect, they're interested in what you've got, and they will allow you to sit in their office or on Zoom or on the phone and ask as many questions. If you want to sit up with them for 8 hours, they'll do that. 2 days, they'll do that. And they'll answer every question with complete transparency and complete honesty. So the question again is, assuming my prospects would give me unlimited time and answer all my questions with complete honesty, what questions would I ask? So that's the question that I use when I'm teaching people how to do creative brainstorming in a sales training program. But you could use this for anything. You could be sitting there and going, well, I'm not making enough money. Maybe there are some other markets that I could be attacking. What are some of the opportunities or the markets that I haven't gone after, or that maybe my prospects, my competition isn't going after, that might be good for me? Or, you can really use it for anything. How can I have a better relationship with my wife, my husband, my kids, my dog? That's one I should really do. I have a good relationship with my dog, but he doesn't listen, but that's a story for another day. So you can use this for just about anything. So you're in a quiet place physically, you're in a quiet place mentally, and you're asking yourself the question out loud. And then step 4 is you simply hold your pen. I want you to hold your pen over your pad and wait for inspiration. Physically hold the pen just like you're about to write something. Ask yourself the question out loud, and then whatever pops into your head, you write that down. Now, I don't care how crazy the thing is that pops into your head, you write it down. There's no self-censoring in stream of consciousness brainstorming. I don't care how off topic it is. I don't care how crazy it is. Just write it down no matter what it is. So if you're asking the question, assuming my prospects would give me unlimited time and answer every question with complete honesty, what questions would I ask? If you come up with, what's your budget? That's a pretty damn good question. You might ask it a little differently, but that's a damn good question to be asking. Write it down. Have you ever worked with a sales training company like mine before? That's a good question if you're me. Write that one down. Do you think the moon is made of green cheese? Well, I don't even know if people say that anymore. That was a big thing when I was a kid. The moon's made of green cheese. Obviously, it's not. But if that's what pops into your head, write it down. Do you think Joe Biden, who's the president currently, is doing a good job? Now, I don't care whether you think he is or isn't. You're writing that question down. And obviously, you would not ask that question on a sales call. That would be a ridiculous question to ask of a prospect. You don't know what their politics are, and that's not helping you move the sale forward. So you wouldn't be asking that, whether you like Joe Biden or not, or whether you think Donald Trump was a good president or not. None of that makes a difference. You just write it down. Is it okay to cheat on my taxes? Is it okay to speed through a red light if I don't get caught? I don't care how crazy the question is, just write it down. Now, the reason for that is because when you self-censor during this exercise, what you're telling your brain, which is listening to you every second of every day, and by the way, is also listening to everything everybody else says to you every day, when you self-censor during this, you're telling your brain that you're doing it wrong, or that you're stupid, or that you're not creative. And what we want to do instead is we want to encourage our own creativity. And the more you just write this stuff down, no matter how crazy it is, the more you're telling your brain, this is going well. I'm doing it right. I promise you, when you get done, you will not just have a bunch of crazy stuff on the page. There will be some good stuff in there too. And I want to give you an example. I think I've given it before on this podcast, of when my daughter, Avery, my oldest daughter, was learning to walk. For those of you who have children, you know how kids learn to walk. They pull themselves up on like a chair or a table or a sofa or something like that, and they stagger a few steps, and then they fall down, and typically they giggle. Because kids don't know that when you fall down, you're supposed to be embarrassed and hide your face in shame. They're too smart for that because they're kids. And then they get up again and they try it again. And then they get up again and they try it again until eventually they walk. And that's when your life changes, but that's besides the point. You see, your brain is always listening to what you're telling it and what everybody else is telling it. When my daughter Avery was learning how to walk, my wife at the time, my now ex-wife, who by the way had nothing malicious about this, every time Avery would fall, she would say, "Avery, you're such a klutz." Or if I was in the room, "Avery's such a klutz." And with a big smile, we kind of laugh about it. This was not meant to be a put down of Avery. It wasn't nasty in any way. It was just kind of a cute thing and a funny thing that my ex-wife used to say. Now, before I go on to explain, let me tell you that Avery is a brilliant kid. She's now 22 years old. She just started her first job at a consulting firm in DC. She graduated from the University of Virginia with a degree in aerospace engineering. She's literally a rocket scientist. She's a bright, bright kid. Actually, she's not a kid anymore. She's a bright, bright adult, and she's always been ahead of the curve. Avery was potty trained sooner than most kids. She spoke sooner than most kids. She walked sooner than most kids. But every time Avery, when she was learning how to walk, my ex-wife would say, Avery, you're such a klutz. Now, here's why I'm telling you this. When I was putting this program together about 3 years ago, I think, I actually did some research and I called Avery and I asked her, Avery, do you think you're smart? Now, Avery, a chip off the old block, is a real wise guy. And when I said, Avery, do you think you're smart? She said, smarter than you, Dad. By the way, don't tell her this, but she probably is. In fact, she definitely is. Intelligence skipped a generation in my family. So Avery said, yes, Dad, I'm probably smarter than you. And I said, Avery, do you think you're funny? And she said, funnier than you, Dad. Well, she probably is that too. And then I said, Avery, do you think you're graceful? I was really leading up to that question. And Avery's answer to, do you think you're graceful, was, Dad, you know I'm a klutz. Now, Avery's not a klutz. For those of you who don't know what a klutz is, it's someone who's clumsy. Now, Avery's not clumsy. She's a smart kid. She's a bright kid. She's a fantastic kid. She does just about everything she wants terrifically. She's one of those human beings that it's easy to hate because she just goes after what she wants and gets it. And she's not a klutz. But she heard it so much when she was a toddler that she believes she's a klutz. So why am I telling you this? Because your brain is listening to you, whatever you're telling it. You're the little self-talk that we all have, the little voice in the back of your head. And if you don't know which voice I'm talking about, it's the voice that just said, what voice is Jeff talking about? It's that one, telling you you're fat, you're stupid, you're no good, you're a loser, or you're a klutz. Or it also listens to other people. And your brain wants you to be right. Your brain will do a lot to work very hard to make you right. So if you keep on telling yourself how broke you are, you're probably going to attract more debt. If it's telling you you're fat, oh, I'm so fat, what a fatso I am, you're probably going to keep eating and getting fatter and fatter. So your brain is always listening to what you tell it and what everybody else tells it. So during this process, I don't want you to tell it that you're not creative or you're not intelligent, you're doing it wrong. No self-censorship whatsoever. Whatever pops into your head, just write it down. Now, step number 5. If you're doing this like me, you're doing it as a 30-minute process. If you sit there for like a minute, maybe 90 seconds, maybe at most 2 minutes, and nothing pops into your head, ask yourself the question out loud again. And remember, I said out loud because you hear things differently in your brain when you say them than when you just think them. So you remember that your brain is listening to everything you say. Just keep asking yourself the question and give yourself permission to have time in there where no thoughts are coming into your head. Now, here's what I find. This is not true for everyone, but I find that for most people that we tend to start out really strong. We start the process, we set our timer, we have our pen over our pad, we ask ourselves the question out loud. If my prospects were giving me unlimited time and would answer every question with complete honesty, what would I ask them? We typically have a lot of stuff right away. And then often there's a period in the middle. It could be a couple minutes, could be 5 or 10 or even more minutes when nothing's popping in. What I find for me is the closer I get to the time limit, the more prolific I get. About that 21, maybe 23-minute mark, because I do it for 30 minutes, stuff starts flying back in. Even if the last 5 minutes, nothing's popped into my head except what am I going to have for dinner? Which, by the way, if that's what pops into your head, write that down too. And be gentle with yourself. If you have a time where just nothing's popping in, don't start the negative self-talk. You're doing it wrong. Maybe I skipped a step that Jeff told me about, whatever it is. Just be gentle. Okay, I'm working the process. I know it's going to work out for me. Keep asking yourself the question out loud. Now, at the end of your time limit, in my case, 30 minutes, if you're still writing stuff down, keep writing. You want to be as creative as you possibly can and come up with as many things as you possibly can. But whenever you're finished, whether it's at your time limit or past it, now you go over your list and you cross off all the crazy stuff that doesn't belong there. So if you were doing the exercise about how to come up with the right questions to ask on a sales call, then if you did say, do I think Joe Biden's doing a good job? Well, cross that out. That's not a good question to ask. Is it okay to cheat on your taxes? That's not a good question to ask on a sales call either. Is it okay to cheat on your spouse? Another question that you would not be asking on a sales call. And that's between you and whatever your beliefs are. I don't care what you do with your spouse, but that's not something you would ask on a sales call. And then you are left with your list of ideas. You're left with a list of usable ideas, or in the case that I gave you the example of, a list of questions that you can ask on any sales call. I did this when I first started working in the sales training business 20 or 21 years ago. I sat down and came up with a list of every question I could possibly think of to ask on a sales call. By the way, here's how crazy I am. I typed them all out. I laminated them. I had about 4 or 5 pages of them, and I used to carry them on sales calls on a clipboard. And I would look at my questions while I was talking to my prospect until I went to a company called Fonar, F-O-N-A-R. They're the people who invented the MRI machine. And I'm talking to the vice president of sales, and I'm asking him a question. He's answering. Then I look down on my lap where my questions were on my clipboard, all laminated nicely. And he said, "Jeff, why do you keep looking down at your lap before you ask me every question?" And I was proud. I held up my sheet, my laminated sheets. I said, "Hey, I forgot his name now. Sal." His name was Sal. Sal, these are all the questions that I have to ask you. And he looked at me and he said, "Really? You're such a good sales trainer that you don't remember the questions you have to ask? I think this sales call is over." And he kicked me out of his office. I never closed them. So don't bring your list of questions with you if you're going to brainstorm on that. But my point is, you're going to be left with a list of ideas or questions that you can ask, or whatever it is you're trying to think of, ideas for how to make more money or start a different business or whatever, to have a better relationship with your kids, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. You're going to have a great list of things that you can actually take action on and implement. However, because I wrote a book on setting and achieving goals, I have to let you know, ideas are terrific, but unless you take action on them, all they are is ideas. That makes them pretty useless. So set a time to get started. Typically, the first step is really the hardest. Like when you commit to going to the gym, you haven't gone in years, maybe you never went to a gym. That first day is the toughest. And the second day is still pretty tough. And the first week is hard. Maybe the second week is hard. But after a while, it becomes easier and easier, and you ingrain a habit into your daily routine, or every other day routine, however often you're going to go to the gym. But getting started is the toughest part. So just get started. Is there something you can do right away to get started towards whatever you're going to accomplish, whatever you're trying to solve or fix? Is there something at least you can do within the next 24 hours? Take the first step and get started. You'll find that once you get going, inertia takes over and it becomes much easier. That's really it on Stream of Consciousness Brainstorming. I always include this in this presentation because I love this quote by Ann Landers. Opportunities are usually disguised as hard work, like taking the time to work on your business. So most people don't recognize them and most people don't do them. And I do love you guys and I think you're awesome. So I hope this was useful for you. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to go back and see if there are any comments or questions. Let's see. Okay. Hi, Jeff, Facebook user. Hello. Bruce Castleman of BGK Financial. Hello, Bruce. Good to see you, Don Levine. And hey, Jeff, I was thinking of joining you today with a nice emoji. Well, whoever that is, thank you for thinking of joining me today. If nobody has any questions, we're going to end right now. I'm not seeing any more come up. Let's see. Can't remember who next week's guest is, but we do have a guest for next week. As always, please feel free to reach out to me directly through our Facebook group, the Sales Pro Network. You can find me on LinkedIn, Jeff Goldberg Sales Coach. And I don't usually give out my contact information, but if anybody needs me for anything, I'm happy to help. My email is jeff@jgsalespro.com. That's also my website. And you're welcome to call me or text me directly. My number is 516-314-9037. And I'm not seeing any questions or comments more. So with that, we're going to end a little early today. We'll see you next week for another great interview with somebody fantastic who can add value to the profession of sales. By the way, if you caught the AI interview, which was Monday with Joe Apfelbaum, Joe and I are working on setting a date right now to bring him back for an hour. I got a lot of comments from you guys saying that was the best interview and the most useful in all the time we've been doing this. I think there are about 150 of these interviews that I've done now. In case you don't know it, by the way, you can find them all on YouTube. There's a YouTube channel called the Sales Pro Network, so they're all there. You can always go back and watch them there. And please follow and subscribe there if you do. And with that, I'll leave you, as I always do, with the ending for all these sessions, which is, remember that sales is a game of making things happen, so get out there and make sales happen. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.